Hello everybody, Mike Brailsford with Brailsford Woodworks. Thank you for joining me back on my channel. I appreciate it. Today I got to start another batch of birdhouses. I've got one or two, perhaps, shows left this year, and I'd like to have probably 6 more birdhouses. Will get it done for this year. So I'm going to get on with it. And the first thing I do is glue up the bodies. I've got 4 here to glue up. I've got 2 already glued up. And so I'm going to go from there, and then I'm going to start gluing up rings. So let's get on with it. When I do production runs of birdhouses, I make bundles of 12 staves and I wrap them up and I store them until I need them. And in this case, I need 6, and so I'm going through and gluing them up. I turned myself a scrap wood cylinder that I use that's the interior of the birdhouse size, and I glue my staves around that, and it makes it easier to glue up. Here I'm gluing up rings. I have cut buckets of wedges of various sizes that I use for the various size rings that I need. And here I'm running through the different sizes, making just what I need for this production run. I will spend a couple days a year where I will process lumber, cut it, plane it, cut it into staves or cut it into wedges, and I stockpile it. And when I run out, that's when I try to make more. All right, these have been setting up all day. It's time to remove the elastics and then run them through my drum sander. I have various size rubber bands that I purchased from Amazon. They're good for several glue ups before they finally kind of dry rot. Here I'm using my Jet 2244. I replaced my Grizzly 495, which I wasn't a big fan of. And this is a much, much better drum sander. And yeah, I'm happy with it. And here it makes fast work of surfacing these rings. Okay, I'm ready to start gluing up my tops and bottoms. I will take the bodies tomorrow and I will turn them into cylinders, take the facets off. But for now, I'm going to start gluing up probably some bottoms. So I need one of these. I need one of these. All right, so I need a total of 6 rings. I will keep these aside. Those are going to be for the flange that will go down inside the body, so I can screw through to hold the bottom in so they're able to be cleaned. I'll put those aside. And yeah, so these are going to be pretty low profile, I believe. So I do these multiple bottoms at a time. I stack them all up and I reverse order on them. Given that these birdhouses are going to be outside, obviously, I use Titebond 3. I have had great luck with it. I haven't had any reports of any glue failures. I also use Titebond 3 for all my cutting boards. Again, it is the proper glue for the job. My segmented glue up jig is no big deal. It's a piece of plywood with a piece of threaded rod on it. And I base all my measurements for placing my rings off the center rod. It seems to work all right for me. I like to work it in place, get it so it's stuck a little bit. Particular case, I kept the tops and bottoms fairly compact, not that many rings in the stack. Particular case, I'll be able to get all 6 bottoms glued up in one shot. Okay, it's time to round off the bodies of the birdhouses. So I've got it mounted in my coal jaws, and I've got a plug in the end. Okay, I still have to flip it around and do the other side, and I need to round off on the inside a little bit so I can my flange on the bottom will fit in properly. But I'm going to sand this part right now, and I only sand to 120 grit because it's going to be outside anyway, so it's all good. So that's it for the sanding for that little half. I'll have to do the other half, but I am going to pull the tailstock back now, and I'm going to use one of my Easy Wood tools roughers to take care of the inside. You gotta cut real careful. You can't be super aggressive. Go too hard and it can come flying right off the coal jaws. Don't ask me how I know. So I've got it spun around. I'm going to round off the other end, this one little piece, sand it to 120 grit, and then finish rounding the inside. So I'd do something a little different today. It's a little bit of a flare on the bottom. I leave my staves thick enough so that I can change the shape if I so choose. Okay, now I'm going to start shaping the tops. I got to get all these shaped the way I want. You know, sometimes I just make a domed thing, or sometimes it's a cove with a wide brim on it. But yeah, I'm just gonna do it as I feel it as I go along. I don't know how any one piece is gonna look until after I get it on the lathe. I just turn it the way I feel it. I'm going to quickly shape my tenon. After I do my glue up, I usually turn the tenon off when it's on the other lathe. It doesn't have to be all that deep. It just has to be able to grab on. That one's looking pretty good, and again, I'm going to sand this again to 120 grit, which will be plenty. Most times I vary up the number of rings and things like this, but for expediency, I did not do that in this case, since I only have about 4 days to get these all done. So I'm about ready to glue the bodies onto the tops, but first I need to cut the holes for the birds. It's a lot easier to do it now than when it's all glued up. I standardize all my birdhouses to an 1.5-inch hole. All my birdhouses are made to be for bluebirds. So one of the things I've learned from my customers is they don't like perches because other birds like swallows will land on there, go in, kill their babies, and take over the nest. All right, it's time to turn the bottoms. So I'm going to get the bottom, this would be the outside bottom ring, get that one round, and then shape it based on one of the birdhouses over there, so it has a consistent look. And this will be the flange that will sit inside the base. So the base will have screws that will go through it and into this. So my original birdhouses I did in stacks of wood rather than staves and rings. I did this as a way to help save some wood. My supply of oak is not unlimited, though it is still pretty good, but I want to maximize it for as long as I can. Here I'm working on sizing the flange so it'll fit inside the birdhouse body. All right, so that bottom is done. Okay, it's time to fit the bases onto the tops. And so I've made a mark where I need to cut to, and I'm going to kind of sneak up on it so make sure I get a nice tight fit. It doesn't have to be a big recess, just a little bit so it glues up a little nicer. Not only am I cutting the recess for the body to fit into the top, but I'm also hollowing it out as much as I can to help reduce the weight. That'll work. That'll look good. All right, that one's done. I'm gonna leave this one sitting on here so, because I match up what I think is a nice top to the body that looks best with it. So I'll leave these two so they're also size matched, and now I'll move on to the next one. It's time to start some assembly. I do all my glue ups on my Laguna. All right, I'm gonna get to work on my finials. First thing I do is I put a 3/4 inch tenon on one end to fit into the holes that I've already drilled in the birdhouses. I use a 3/4 inch wrench as a gauge. And so let's get doing. This is the only footage I got of doing the finials. I apologize for that. So I'm going to go through and put all the tenons on all of them. And then I'll come back and start shaping them. Okay, now I've got all my birdhouses assembled and painted. I'm just applying the last coats of finish. I have to apologize again. I didn't get footage of me doing the painting this time. Here, all I'm doing is putting on the last coat of finish. And that's the third coat on this one. Between coats of finish, I like to use a 320 grit sandpaper to help rough it up a little bit between coats. I wipe it down with some mineral spirits, and then I apply my finish. And here I'm using Helmsman Spar varnish. It's the proper stuff for me to use, being that these are all going to be outside. I'm actually very pleased with how this batch came out. This one in particular
is very nice. Nice coloring on that bottom ring on the top. So here's the finished product. I turned each finial to match the style of each birdhouse. Hope you can see that reflected here. Alright, that's it for today. If you think you've gotten anything out of this, please click like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. Also, leave me comments. I'll answer each and every one. And everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.